Alright, we're gonna go pick up a snowmobile that I bought from an auction. I think it was like a month or two ago. I bought it for 135 bucks. It's in my storage unit right now. We haven't touched it, so let's go see if we can dig that out and bring it back home. It is currently 5 degrees Fahrenheit in Wisconsin. Feels like -1, so it is cold. Alright, we're bringing the come along with. Probably gonna need that. Alright, here it is underneath this cover. We also have the snow bike still. If anybody wants that, let me know. Go check out the video on that. That thing is very difficult to ride. But alright, let's get the cover off and try to get this thing loaded onto the trailer. Right here we can pull from. You can see this was auction number 707. Looks to be in pretty decent shape. It does pull over. We'll take a closer look when we get back home. Thing's a heavy beast. Alright, we're all loaded up. This ramp I need to get fixed ASAP. That is a pain in the butt. It snapped last video. Right there. So, needs a good weld on there and some support brackets probably. Alright, I forgot this thing didn't come with a key. So we gotta pick the lock first. All right, we got this thing on wheels now. Whew. Thing's a tank. All right, now we can move this thing around easily. Well, we finally got this in the garage. We can start working on it. So if you guys missed the last video on this machine, we actually picked this thing up from an auction. You can see the auction tag on it, number 707. And we got this for $130. It's not a bad deal. I think I was bidding against one other person and ended up winning it. I didn't even know I won until they sent me the sheet saying I won, so I wasn't really trying too hard to win it, but we ended up with it. And for 130 bucks, I'd say it was a pretty good deal. So I believe this to be a 1973 Johnson Skee-Horse Rampage 30. This has a 437cc two-stroke engine, and these were actually produced by the Outboard Marine Corporation, which acquired Johnson Motors in 1935. And after that, they started producing snowmobiles, and were actually the leaders in producing snowmobiles for a long time. And a lot of these machines were named after boat motors, which is kind of funny. I don't really know too much information on it. It looks like it was last registered in 1989. There's a bunch of stickers on here. You can see all the way back to 1975. And it looks like it was well taken care of. The paint is all in very good condition for 1973. You can see it was ridden in Wisconsin. They were part of the Honey Creek Snowmobile Club, it looks like. And there really isn't many miles on it. 2,194 miles. All the gauges look good. You've got the RPM gauge here. You've got your fuel gauge. You've got your mile per hour gauge here, along with the miles. You've got your, I think this is the parking brake right here. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the choke. I believe this is a decompression mechanism for the engine. You've got your primer here. You've got your ignition. And it looks like it says run, start. I'm guessing this is lights right there. And then you've got your lighter here. And this is neutral lockout right there. And then this thing opens up and you can access the spark plug. And you've got your brake here. You've got your headlight open and close here. See if that works. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. I had no idea they had that. Then you've got your throttle, which is stuck. And the windshield looks to be cracked in a couple places, but it's not shattered. Down here, you've got your gas tank. I'll take a close look at that in a second here. I think it's just plastic. Looks to be empty. I'm looking at the track. It looks fairly decent. Doesn't look horrible. Couple small rips on there. But for 1973, it's probably the original track. So it's not going to be perfect. Take a close look at that. You can see it's not in the best shape. I'm guessing some of these rollers are stuck. We'll have to free those up. But overall, not horrible. And I believe it turns over. Yeah, we won't turn it over too much. So we're gonna start digging into this thing, and the goal for today is to get this thing up, running, and driving by the end of the video. It'd be awesome to go rip this in the snow, you know, since it hasn't ran since 1989, which is almost 40 years ago. So if we can resurrect this thing, it'd be a pretty cool feeling. So let's go ahead, we'll jump right in and start tackling this one. All right, let's go ahead and open up the hood here, check out the engine. Let's go take a peek. All right, taking a peek here. So here is the engine. Looks like it's got the fuel pump right there. So that brings fuel from the tank down to here, through here, and up to the carburetor, which you have a spark plug here and one in the front. We'll have to take this off. Here's the air filter right there. Gas tank, easy access to that. There's the gas tank gauge here. Headlights look like they're intact, all wired up. All right, let's check out the belt. Belt is still on it. Clutch is free. You can see how the brake works right here. Brake pad's just pushed on the rotor. Then the parking brake, you can see, works right here. That might be reverse. Looking pretty good in there. Chain's a little loose in there, we'll have to check that out. But yeah, everything looks like it's here, you know. Not seeing any leaking from the engine at all. Exhaust looks good, no holes in the exhaust. Steering feels good, that's nice and loose. So I think what we're gonna do first is take off the piece here. Because I don't think we can get to the carb without doing that. Alright, what do we have here? So I think this is a belt, I'm pretty sure. Cool. Looks like a new OEM belt in there. Got a couple wires here. New spark plug. Looks like a fuel petcock, maybe. Spark plug wrench. Alright. And then down in here is for the battery. So we've got negative cable, positive, and that's just for the electric start. This is equipped with the electric start, so it is the nicer version. I think they came with only pull start, and then there's an option for electric start as well. So you turn the key all the way to the right for electric start. So that looks good. What's underneath here, anything? No. I thought maybe the key would be in here. I'm not seeing the key anywhere. Alright, let's see if we can get this off the rest of the way. That one's on there pretty darn good. Got this to kind of come. Still kind of held on. should lift off. There we go. Underneath, I think, are all the fuses and the electrical system. Yeah, all the wires look good. You can see all the fuses there, solenoid, and then the 2 coils. Just taking a look at all the wires. All the wires look like they're intact. A little spot coming through there. Doesn't look too bad though. Lots of ladybugs. So yeah, so far everything's looking pretty good. Let's try to get the ignition to the run position so we can see if anything lights up. Negative and positive going on. Turn it to on. Do we have any lights? Doesn't look like it. Nothing's lighting up. All right, I was able to turn the key. Anything light up here? It's on the run position. Lights. Ooh, electric start was working. Look at that. All right, let's go to the lights. I think that's lights right there. Let's see how do you turn it on. So that's lights, that's run, and start is the other way. Let's go ahead and check the fuses quick. See what those look like. Ground there. Doesn't look like any fuses. Power pack, it says. See if we get any power here. Not many volts going to there. Let's turn it to run. Oh, lights just turned on. All right, lights just turned on. I was playing with the ignition. Let's see if we can make it happen again. So I think this is probably just dirty contacts. There we go. Tail light. There it is. I think we just need to clean off the connectors on the ignition, but it looks like run works, start works, electric start's working, tail light's working, and the headlights are working periodically. All right, let's get these spark plugs out. Now that we know that the ignition's working, let's see, does this have a boot that comes off of here? Nope. All right, let's get that spark plug out. We can use our spark plug wrench that was included. These look pretty old. You can see the spark plug there. lot different looking than the spark plug there. I wonder what the correct plug is for it. This one's completely different than the one that was in there. We'll see if we get any spark with anything. The other plug's gonna be right in here. All right, here is the plug. This one looks a little bit better. Not as much carbon on that plug. So this is for the rear cylinder. All right, we can get that back in there. Let's see what that connection looks like here. All right. Now we're gonna lube everything up here. So we're gonna put a little penetrating oil down there in each cylinder, a little bit of oil, lube those up. Been sitting for 40 years. All right, a little oil going in. All right, we'll let that soak for a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to slowly pull this thing over. I want to see what it sounds like. Alright, so we're going to hook up the battery, see if the electric start's working here. Alright, let's see if we can crank her over. Not grabbing. Let's see if we get any spark. Seems like the electric start was somewhat grabbing and got stuck. So we'll have to use the pull start for now. Put this right to here. All right, check it out. It looks to be sparking. Not the brightest spark in the world, but it is sparking. There we go. It looks pretty good. All right, cool. We have spark on the front cylinder. Let's check the back. All right, looking right in here. Get this wire out of the way. See if you guys can see it sparking in there. All right, let's pull it over a couple times and see if you guys can see it. Here we go. Alright, that appears to be sparking pretty darn good. So we have spark on the front and the rear cylinder. So far so good. Alright, if we have compression, we're going to be in business here. Let's see what we can get for compression. So I'd like to have over 120 PSI, but we're probably gonna have closer to 90, I'm guessing. It'll still run with 90. I'm guessing those rings are a little bit stuck, but we'll see. Let's see what we get here. All right, pull this thing over. The throttle cable's stuck, so we can't do throttle open. Let's see if I can wiggle it free here. All right, let's just pull it over. See what we get. Oh, well over 100. Haha, that's not too bad. What is that? 110, 20, 30, 135 PSI. I'll take it. That's enough to run it. Cool. So front cylinder has 135. So far we're getting pretty lucky with this thing. It might just run. Let's see what we get. All right, we're looking for over 100 PSI. Let's see. And this is without throttle open, so. Oh yeah, 140. So really close to the other cylinder. That's perfect. So front is 135, rear is 140. That's great. That's really good compression for an old sled. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. We have compression and we have good spark now. All right, let's take a quick peek down the cylinder here, see what we can see. All right. Ooh, cylinder looks pretty darn good. You can see the cross hatches still. It's kind of hard to see anything else though. Let's get a different view. I think that's the piston right there. There we go. Piston doesn't look too bad. A little carboned up, but look at the cross hatches in the cylinder. That looks great. Yeah, piston has a little carbon on there. Head looks pretty decent. So rear cylinder looks to be in pretty good shape. Let's check the front now, if I can reach that far. Ooh, same condition about. Yeah, nice cross hatches on the cylinder. Piston, kind of hard to see, but about the same amount of carbon on the piston as the front one. There's a little hole there. Huh, looks pretty good. Yeah, no big scratches. There's the piston. There we go. Yeah, it looks pretty darn good in there. All right, well that's good. All right, let's take a look in the gas tank. I really hope this was stored without fuel in it. Let's see, it could be all gunked up in there. Ooh, let's see. Oh, it's empty. Nice. Tank is completely empty. Well, that helps a lot. All right, so hopefully nothing's clogged in the tank. And The lines coming from the tank are right here. So we're gonna try to see if those lines are connected down below here. And I can see it, it's floating there. So the line looks like it's actually connected. So that's good. So we should be getting fuel up through that line. All right, coming back over here, we need this pump to work here. So that is very important that that's working. That pumps the gas from the fuel tank up to the carb. So if that's not working, we're not gonna get any gas to the carb. So what we're gonna do is quick take off our air filter here. I think this whole outer casing can come off. We have to take off the pull start mechanism, and then we can get to that carb. All right, we'll start by taking off the air filter here. Does this cap come off? Actually, it doesn't look that bad. All right. It's coming off. Let's see if the choke is working. Oh yeah, cool. You can see that moving up and down, so the choke is working. All right. Now we just have to get that off. So coming down, looking at the pump, start taking that off next. All right, so in is here, out is there. And we can start taking that pump off. Is it drilled right into the back of that? Huh. That to fall down. That's interesting. There's a vacuum line that comes out the back here that goes into a line on the engine right here. Held on by 3 bolts there. Let's see what that looks like coming off of here. Anything in the center? Oh. Alright, that's not too bad. No moving parts in there. So as long as that lines up, we should be fine. Alright, pull that off to the side. Get this piece off of here. Get a little WD-40 on those lines. Alright, that piece is finally off. Alright, now we've got access to the engine here. So carb is up here. We've got breather line there. Throttle's right there. You can see it's stuck. I'm guessing that butterfly in there is just a little bit stuck. You've got your idle adjust there, it looks like. Yeah. And then your choke right here. So it looks like we can just go ahead and take the carb off. Here is the vacuum line coming from the engine. A little bit on there. Just kind of work it a little bit. Alright, there's a little cotter pin in there. We were able to get that off. Now that pulls right out like that. And then we can take that and unscrew it from there. Alright, throttle cable's off, choke cable's off, all the lines are off, so let's go ahead and get the bolts off. See if we can budge that free. There we go. There's a nut. That fell somewhere. Alright, carb is off. We got the gasket in between. Gasket looks good. Ooh, lots of old gas in there. Alright, that wasn't too bad. Could have been worse. So let's take a look on the inside of the carb, see what's going on. Alright, so here's the carb. You can see that the throttle butterfly is stuck, not moving. So we might have to take that apart and clean that. I wonder if we let this sit in the ultrasonic cleaner, if that'll free up. Through here, I believe that's for the main jet. So let's see how many screws in we are. We are about half a turn out on this one. There's a little washer in there as well. I think there's an O-ring too. That might be the air screw. Just got a washer and the O-ring there that goes into here. So that's 1/2 a turn. Alright, let me quick mark this so we know how it goes back together. So the line here lines up with the line there with the arrow, basically. Lift this up very gently, don't want to break it. break that diaphragm. I don't know if that's a gasket or a diaphragm in there. Actually, the diaphragm feels pretty good. You can see it right there. Do we risk opening that up? I don't want to rip that diaphragm. One, two, well, 2 turns out on this one here. Alright, we got this to budge. Let's see if I broke anything here. I'm just going to go around and slowly lift it up without trying to rip that diaphragm. There we go. That's off. Alright, now this diaphragm has to come out. That's going to be a tricky one. It was pretty tough to do without ripping, but I think we did it. There we go. A little gunk on there. It's not too bad though. You can see the old gas in here. Yeah, not too bad at all. Alright. Yeah, just a little bit of gunk in there, not horrible. There's where the needle is. We can get that out, that diaphragm. So let's get that off. That spring sometimes flies, so get that spring off right away. Spring looks good. And the needle is right in there. Let's see if that's magnetic. Let's take that right out. Nope. Grab that out of there. Ooh, needle looks good. Wow. Actually looks pretty clean in there. Alright, then we can take off, hopefully, the seat right in here, which looks really clean. You know what, we might just keep that in. I want to rip this gasket, and we might just blow right through that. I want to see if there's any gunk in there. Should be coming out of the gas line here. Yep. Alright, so that's clear. Carb actually looked really good. And underneath here, you're gonna have your jets, which I think we're gonna leave in there for now because the carb looks so clean. I'm not really seeing anything wrong with it at all. Blow through here. That's clear. Go through here. Alright, we'll let this cook for about 30 minutes. Alright, carb is out of the ultrasonic cleaner, looking good. We blew through all the passageways, and check this out. Throttle is now free. So I ended up taking this whole thing out, lubing it all up, and putting it back together. Now it's working perfectly. Snaps right back. So That's perfect. We let the diaphragm sit for a little bit. And it's still pretty soft. Ideally, I'd like to get a new diaphragm for it. This one's a little bit worn out, but it might work today. We'll probably order up a carb kit for this thing if we can find it. But let's go ahead and get this whole thing back together, get everything back installed, and then we can install this back onto the machine. All right, let's get this carb back on here. On the surface here. All right, got some new gas line going on. This one's gonna go on here. Like that. Just like that. All right, and then this one is going to hook up back to here. We'll get a clamp on there, and then we'll get a fuel filter down on this line. This line's still fine, so we're gonna cut that in half, put a fuel filter in there. Ooh, there's some oil coming out of that line. So fuel filter. Now, this goes on here, so we gotta get gas line through here. This gas line goes through here. We're just gonna quick pop open the pump here, just the top piece off of here, just to see if there's any gunk in there. And we can put it right back on. What we're gonna do is prime the pump as well. So take a little gas and dump it down there. Then right down in here. Priming that pump here. That doesn't look too bad. Let me get this back on. Alright, carb's all back on, pump is all back on. We got the pull start back on with the speedo back on, and then the air filter is all back installed. So engine is all back together. Let's get the spark plugs in, some gas in here, and we'll attempt to fire this thing up. All right, well, 40 to 1 mixed up. Hopefully the gas tank doesn't leak at all. We will find out right now. Any leaking? Nothing yet. Well, let's attempt the first start. This will be the first start attempt in almost 40 years. And I'm hoping it's going to fire up. So as long as our pump is working, we should be getting fuel to the carb and we should be good to go. So we've got fresh 41 in it. The spark plugs are sparking. We have good compression at 140 right around there. And the carb was just cleaned out. So there's really no reason this thing shouldn't fire up. We're going to prime it and then we're going to choke it. Give this thing a go. Prime it here. Choke it. Turn it on. All right, the ignition wires had pulled out, causing it to turn off, so we're good now. Let's see what happens. A little fuel going on the carb. Not getting any fuel. not wanting to go. All right, it was getting fuel by itself. So that's good. We're gonna adjust the idle and let's see if it can idle here. There we go. Running pretty good now. All right, she's running really good. So it took a while to prime the pump and the carb to pump up that fuel, but it finally went and now it's running on its own. So that is awesome. We're gonna throw a battery in here and I guess we're gonna attempt to ride this thing. I lubed up all these wheels down here, so hopefully those are all free. You can see the mouse nest here. But yeah, let's go attempt to take this thing for a little ride. All right, I found a key that's gonna work. So we got that in there. Try to go in reverse here.
Looks good.
Doesn't want to idle right now. Alright, let's adjust the knob here. I think we're getting too much fuel. Let's see if that helps. I gotta say, this thing is running way better than expected. Not a single issue with it. That's pretty good, considering that diaphragm in the car was kind of iffy. But man, it starts right up, has pretty good power. We were adjusting the screw on the carb a couple times, and I think we finally got it dialed in pretty good. So on a long straightaway, it gets going pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with the carb settings as of right now. It probably could use a carb diaphragm just to make it run perfect, but I mean, it's pretty good, you know. So I am really happy with the way it turned out. Electric start's working great, choke is working, all the gauges are working. For 130 bucks, you can't beat it. This one turned out awesome. It's really fun to ride. It's really tippy, but that kind of makes it fun as well. So yeah, this one's good to go. Let's see if riding it wiggled something loose on the headlights. See if they work now. Anything? Nothing. Yeah, we might have to get new bulbs for it. They may have burnt out. Well, this one is all finished up. So hopefully you guys enjoyed picking this thing up from the auction for 130 bucks, diagnosing it, doing the first start in 40 years, and then taking it for the first test drive. This one was definitely worth getting running. I'm really happy we took the risk buying this thing at the auction for 130 bucks. It paid off. It was a lot of work, but definitely paid off. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video. And until next time, we are out.